I love All Elite Wrestling. I love it. I love it as a promotion. I've loved it since the day my friend Paul Tanner invited me around his house to watch the very first pay-per-view. From the first match, just everything about it, the presentation. It was this weird Frankenstein's monster of all the wrestling that I'd loved previously. ECW, WCW, Ring of Honor, New Japan, all these other promotions that I'd dedicated so much time and attention to over the years had sort of all congealed into this one place, and it all leapt off the screen instantaneously. And as an autistic person, special interests come pretty easily, and when you fall hard. And it was love at first sight with AEW, and that love has not decreased at all. There's been moments we've had rough patches from time to time. I was going to say during COVID, but not really. If anything, COVID and the empty stadium period solidified my love for the promotion. The CM Punk dramas, the Cody dramas, wrestlers coming and going, having to deal with like the constant drama of people online constantly telling you that this thing that you loved was, a hair's breadth away from disappearing. After the first 3-4 years of that, you start to realize that that's not the case and that's not going to happen. But there is still a gap between All Elite Wrestling, which is the promotion I love, and WWE, which is still the biggest wrestling promotion on earth, even though they'll tell you they're not a wrestling promotion. But their fans and anyone who works for WWE will go out of their way to do anything they possibly can to harm AEW. And I hate that. I hate it. Especially when you are the biggest, And I know there's this sort of American ideology that that's how you win. That's how you stay on top. But I would have thought, as good God-fearing capitalists as all those guys are, that you should just let the market decide without interfering. But they're incapable of doing that. So what I want to do with this is actually go through the history of AEW step by step and determine whether any of the accusations leveled at AEW's detractors are true. My hypothesis is that they're not, and that I'll be able to systematically dismantle these arguments week by week about, the wrestling being over the top, not having enough stories, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to use the arguments against themselves by using AEW's back catalogue, which now exists on my AEW. This isn't a plug. I'm not paid. I'm doing this genuinely out of the love of my heart. You can see up the back here, I've got VIP passes from Australian shows. If I had more money, I would travel to go and see AEW. I have done it for New Japan in the past. I love professional wrestling. And a friend of mine said to me the other day, the channel is good. What would be cool is if you could kind of explain what's happening to wrestling or in wrestling to people who aren't into it, which I actually think wrestling could do a lot better at, including AEW, bringing people in, allowing them to know what's going on in our little world. And I think a lot of people who come into wrestling love it because it is such a community. Whether you're a WWE or AEW, New Japan, whatever fan, it's yours, right? There's always been an outsider movement with wrestling. And I think that's why you've seen so many people from like nerd culture move into wrestling fandom in the last 20, 25 years. When I first started watching it was kind of like kids and 40-year-old no teeth rednecks, or bogans as we call them here in Australia. But as I've gotten older, the crowds have definitely become more and more Comic Con type people. And that's cool, but it just makes sense that there's that crossover because the sense of community is strong in both. And I think sometimes people want to protect that. And that could be where a lot of the hate from WWE people come from towards AEW. I think there's a lot of other things going on as well, which we'll explore through the new podcast series, this is what I'm announcing here, that I'm going to be doing a week by week, step by step breakdown of AEW's entire catalog. Dynamite, Rampage, Collision, Dark, all the pay-per-views, any special events I can get my hands on. I will try and do everything that is on my AEW. So if you're an international viewer, you'll be able to see that. If you're an American viewer, I'm not 100% sure if you'll have all that stuff on HBO. I think most of that stuff should be on HBO Max. If not, VPNs exist. But AEW is actually pretty good with all this. So they put a lot of this stuff up on their YouTube and all that kind of thing as well. Especially, I think all the Dark stuff's up there. Anyway, because I still, even though wrestling right now as we speak in July 2026 is going through a bit of a rough spot as far as ticket sales and stuff are concerned. But again, I think there's another side to that isn't being explored by wrestling media, which is ticket sales aren't doing particularly well anywhere. And in the industry that I work in, I'm not going to tell you what that is, but I would know. There are issues with ticket sales all around the world because we're in the middle of an economic crash. So it's not just wrestling. But having said that, there are still things being thrown at AEW that stick, which I just don't think are completely true at all. Essentially that they're like unprofessional, a sloppy shop. I mean, there's a guy, we'll get into this, as the series starts, but there's a guy who has a whole YouTube channel basically going through what he considers unsafe spots in AEW. I mean, it's a cottage industry that feeds off the negativity around AEW. And there's plenty of people who do the same thing for WWE as well. I want this to be a relatively positive thing. I want to be pointing out the things that AEW does correctly. So it's not necessarily me having a sideswipe at WWE, but that will happen because the vast majority of that commentary comes from that side of the street. But yeah, if I was just going to say, like, if ticket sales are down and people aren't interested in WWE, I don't think the wrestling media has done a particularly good job of painting wrestling in a great light, because every time you go and look at a headline about wrestling, it's WWE's finished, AEW's finished, these wrestlers are terrible, wrestling shit, no one likes it. You're not presenting a great product for anyone who might be on the outside looking in. The whole industry has become very insular and doesn't seem to be very interested in attracting new people. Or the commentariat, put it that way, don't seem very interested in building up the thing that they supposedly love. From the English YouTube channels all the way through to JD and NYC, like, it's all very, very, very negative. So I'm going to try and positively go through the history of AEW and disprove a whole bunch of stuff that's been said about the promotion for 7 years. Yes. So we will start with All In, the original All In. Want to get that out just in time for this year's All In. And then once that's done, I'm going to start off fortnightly. If I can get more done quicker, I'll do that. But I want these to be pretty long form, in-depth sort of react review videos with screenshots and as much content as I can get in the videos without getting copyright stricken by the old YTs. So anyway, thank you for listening to my announcement. It was also an opportunity to show off my fancy new camera. If you're interested in this and want to see these videos when they appear, the best way to do that is to click subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. You'll get, every time I drop something, it'll show up here. I'll still be doing the quick little X Twitter videos of anything that sort of comes up that I think I want to talk about at the moment. It just seems I'm a sort of trade radio for wrestlers. It seems to be the only thing I've spoken about so far. So anyway, we'll get a few more things on the channel. But until I get those videos up, and I'll do a bit more promotion around it once it's done, like and subscribe, best way to help. And until then, may your wrestling be good wrestling. Good night.